1. Hegseth's secret pause. Did Trump approve cutting Ukraine weapons? Pentagon scandal explained. 2. U.S. Patriot missile shortage. A threat to national security. 1. Hegseth's secret pause. Did Trump approve cutting Ukraine weapons? Pentagon scandal explained. When major decisions get made in the highest levels of government, you'd expect clear communication. But what if the most important players are left in the dark? That's the situation that recently unfolded when Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth halted weapons shipments to Ukraine without first notifying the White House, according to 5 sources familiar with the incident. The abrupt move sent shockwaves through the administration, leaving officials scrambling to uncover the rationale behind the freeze and racing to appease both Congress and Ukraine. But here's where it gets controversial. President Donald Trump promptly distanced himself from the decision. Asked about the pause during a cabinet meeting, Trump hesitated, claiming he wasn't responsible and reiterating only a general commitment to continue sending defensive aid. When pressed on who had given the green light, he deflected, "I don't know, why don't you tell me?" Is this a sign of broken communication, plausible deniability, or something else entirely? This episode has thrown a spotlight on the often chaotic nature of policymaking within the Trump administration, particularly since Hegseth took the helm at the Pentagon. For the second time this year, Hegseth stopped the flow of U.S. arms to Ukraine, blindsiding senior security bureaucrats. The first halt in February was swiftly reversed, echoing what happened this time. After the latest pause, Trump stepped in and ordered the shipment of critical Patriot interceptor missiles to resume. The confusion was felt at all levels. Retired General Keith Kellogg, the U.S.'s special envoy to Ukraine, and Secretary of State Marco Rubio, who also serves as Trump's national security advisor, reportedly learned about the halt from news reports rather than through official channels. And this is the part most people miss. Even top diplomats and advisors found out with the rest of us only after the story broke. According to Pentagon Press Secretary Kingsley Wilson, Hegseth's actions were part of a broader effort to provide Trump with a framework to evaluate military aid and assess stockpiles, coordinated across agencies. However, the White House's own spokesperson, Caroline Leavitt, said the Pentagon undertook a review to ensure all foreign support aligns with U.S. interests. She added that Trump ultimately decided weapons shipments should continue, emphasizing his full confidence in Hegseth. Yet, 2 sources chalk up the communication failure, in part, to Hegseth's lack of a chief of staff or close advisors. There was no one to press for wider coordination on such weighty decisions. Once Trump was made aware, he swiftly pressed Hegseth to resume some shipments, especially those vital to Ukraine's defense against relentless Russian missile and drone strikes. At the time of the pause, many of the munitions were already staged in Poland, ready for rapid delivery to Kiev. The halted weapons package had been approved by the previous administration and was already en route when stopped. In a phone call with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, Trump minimized his role in the interruption. Yet, the reversal wasn't officially announced by the Pentagon until late Monday night, after Trump publicly stated that Ukraine needed defensive arms to protect its people. Trump doubled down on that message Tuesday, praising Ukrainian bravery and subtly acknowledging the controversy over the sheer value and volume of U.S. aid. And a lot of people I know wouldn't be operating it. They wouldn't have the courage to do it. Here's a point that could spark debate. 2 sources claim Trump is now less willing to hand Russia a diplomatic win by cutting off aid to Ukraine, especially as he grows disillusioned with President Putin, who has shown little willingness to negotiate peace. Trump voiced this frustration bluntly. "We get a lot of bulls **** thrown at us by Putin, it turns out to be meaningless." A European official present at last month's NATO summit in the Netherlands confirmed Trump's clear annoyance with Putin, and supported the idea that the freeze was not initiated by Trump himself. So how did this freeze come about? According to sources, Trump asked Hegseth at NATO to assess U.S. weapons stockpiles, amidst concerns over ongoing crisis points like Iran and Israel, and ensure enough reserves for American forces elsewhere. Pentagon spokesman Sean Parnell confirmed that a formal capability review was underway. But here's another twist. 3 sources insist Trump never directly instructed Hegseth to halt aid as part of the review. Instead, the recommendation reportedly originated from Undersecretary of Defense for Policy Elbridge Colby, who has publicly argued the U.S. should prioritize countering China over supporting Europe. Colby's suggestions were approved by Deputy Secretary Steve Feinberg, who has long worried about slow defense industry production. Ultimately, Hegseth greenlit the pause, likely believing it matched Trump's America First agenda. After the news reached the White House, officials told Hegseth and the Pentagon they'd offer temporary political cover, but made clear that the Defense Department would need to explain their actions to Congress, a body also left out in the cold. Pentagon representatives have since told congressional staff the pause was necessary due to low stockpiles. But here's the part that will raise eyebrows. Congress says it hasn't seen any evidence of an imminent crisis and points out that the Pentagon hasn't requested new emergency funding or authorizations. Congress would be glad to work with DoD if credible evidence was presented that the Pentagon stockpiles were critically short, but there have been no new urgent requirements submitted, one source stated, highlighting a disconnect between the Pentagon's narrative and congressional oversight. So, is this a case of bureaucratic mismanagement, or does it expose deeper disagreements within the administration about U.S. foreign policy priorities? Should America focus on Europe's war, or pivot to challenges in Asia? And what does it mean that such a high-stakes decision was made without clear communication at the top? We want to hear from you. Do you agree with the Pentagon's rationale, or are you troubled by the lack of transparency and coordination? Is the U.S. right to continue sending defensive weapons to Ukraine, or should it focus its resources elsewhere? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. This is where debate truly matters. 2. U.S. Patriot missile shortage, a threat to national security. The United States finds itself in a critical situation regarding its military preparedness. With only a quarter of the necessary Patriot missile interceptors, the country faces a potential threat to its global operations. This alarming shortage has led to a freeze on the transfer of munitions to Ukraine, a decision with far-reaching implications. The Pentagon's stockpile of Patriot missiles has reached an all-time low, raising concerns about the ability to execute military plans effectively. Deputy Defense Secretary Stephen Feinberg took action, authorizing a halt to the transfers to review the distribution of weapons. But here's where it gets controversial. President Trump seems to have reversed this decision, promising to send some more weapons to Ukraine. Trump's actions have sparked confusion and debate. While he assured Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky that he was not responsible for the initial halt, the decision to review U.S. weapons stockpiles remains unclear. The determination to freeze transfers was based on the Pentagon's Global Munitions Tracker, which revealed critical munitions falling below the required levels for several years. The Trump administration initiated a review of the depleted Patriot missile levels and other munitions around February. This review gained urgency after the U.S. deployed more interceptors in the Middle East to support campaigns and protect Israel. The situation intensified following Trump's decision to bomb Iran's nuclear facilities, resulting in the U.S. firing nearly 30 Patriot missiles to defend against Iranian ballistic missile attacks. The recent depletion of Patriot missiles and other munitions formed the basis of a recommendation memo by Elbridge Colby, the Undersecretary of Defense for Policy. Colby, who has faced criticism from Democrats for prioritizing resources away from the Ukraine conflict, outlined options to conserve weapons. However, it was revealed that Colby's office lacked the authority to make such a decision unilaterally. The decision to halt transfers was made by Feinberg, the former CEO of Cerberus Capital Management, with Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth's approval. This abrupt pause comes at a critical time for Ukraine, as Russia launched its largest aerial offensive to date, leaving Ukraine with limited options to acquire weapons to counter intense Russian attacks. Ukraine's ability to directly purchase weapons from defense contractors is severely limited, with new orders taking years to fulfill. The Pentagon's priority to replenish its own stockpiles further complicates matters, as the same contractors are relied upon to build weapons for Ukraine. Trump's decision to allow some defensive munitions to be sent to Ukraine appears to be a response to growing frustration with Russian President Vladimir Putin. White House and Pentagon spokespeople confirmed that transfers would resume, but the specifics of the weapons being sent remain unclear. The American military remains strong, as Operation Midnight Hammer demonstrated. President Trump is committed to providing Ukraine with additional defensive munitions to stop the killing, said White House spokesperson Anna Kelly. While Trump has publicly criticized Ukraine aid in financial terms, the real challenge lies in the U.S.'s ability to manufacture weapons quickly to replenish depleted stockpiles. The U.S. has been transferring weapons to Ukraine through two main channels: a drawdown of Defense Department stockpiles and the Ukraine Security Assistance Initiative (USAI), where the Defense Department pays contractors to manufacture weapons specifically for Ukraine. The latest weapons shipment to Ukraine included dozens of Patriot missiles and other munitions, such as air-to-air Sparrow missiles, Hellfire missiles, GMLRS rocket artillery, and anti-tank guns. The primary concern revolves around the Patriot missiles, with the U.S. producing only 600 per year, while Iran retains over 1,000 ballistic missiles that could potentially be used against U.S. bases in the region. The U.S. has also transferred around 2,000 Stinger missiles to Ukraine, equivalent to 2.5 years of production, which are increasingly used by the U.S. military for defense against hostile drones. This critical shortage of Patriot missile interceptors raises questions about the U.S.'s military preparedness and its ability to support allies effectively. As the situation unfolds, it remains to be seen how the U.S. will address this challenge and ensure its global military operations are not jeopardized. What are your thoughts on this matter? Feel free to share your opinions and engage in the discussion below.